Hey, what's up, folks? This is Jesse with Keeping It Real Finance, a channel that always has your back and tells it like it is. Well, today's video is going to be a big-time update on what is going on exactly when it comes to Luna, when it comes to UST, and when it comes to ANC. So this has really hit the fan over the last couple of days. It has caused the entire crypto market to plummet with it. And right now, Luna is in an absolute free fall. So we're going to be talking about exactly what happened or what we think happened. We're going to be talking about what Kwon and his team at Terra are trying to do about it. We're going to be looking at what some of the players are saying with what's going on here. And then we're going to wrap this thing up with some final thoughts on kind of what led to this and maybe how we can avoid this kind of thing in the future, right? So it should be a pretty informative video for anybody out there. And I'd also like to, send out some heartfelt empathy for anybody who is affected by this. It's not cool at all what happened here. So that being said, we're going to get in today's video now. So if you enjoy the video, make sure to hit the like button. If this is your first time to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And if you click the bell, you'll be made aware whenever I post time-sensitive content. And now, let's get it going. All right, what's up, guys? Coming at you with an update on the Terra situation that's completely turning the crypto market into a bloodbath. So what's been going on? I've gotten a few requests from people saying, hey, explain this to me in layman's terms, exactly what's happening. And I think this post here from Derek Grant kind of sums it up best, or at least what the theory is of what happened, all right? So the theory is, and they refer to as Citadel in here. Citadel is a large hedge fund that was involved with AMC shorting, a bunch of other kind of shady practices. Obviously, they are not on the Christmas card list for quite a few people in multiple markets. So the assumption here of what's happened, and I haven't seen any solid data yet that ties this directly to them or BlackRock or anyone else. So that's the kind of thing that could be coming, though, soon. So keep an eye out for updates. This is still a developing story. So that being said, the assumption here is that Citadel borrows 100,000 worth of Bitcoin, okay? It says trades 25,000 Bitcoin for UST. This is Terra USD, the stable coin. Opens a short. Starts dumping 75,000 Bitcoin aggressively. Once Bitcoin reached 30,000, they started dumping UST to make it lose its peg. Now Kwon, they're referring to Kwon, the founder of Terra, is forced to sell 25,000 BTC at a major loss to recover the peg, further dumping the price of BTC. Meanwhile, Citadel is shorting all the way. So what they're basically insinuating here is market manipulation from a large whale hedge fund. Now, was it Citadel? That has not 100% been confirmed yet, okay? Could it be Citadel? Sure, it absolutely could be. Could it be BlackRock? Yes, it absolutely could be. You really got to look at those big players that do things like this in the markets. And technically, is there anything illegal about what happened here? As far as I can tell, I don't think any of this is illegal, though it is heavy market manipulation. And what you got to realize is that with these cryptocurrency markets, because they're worldwide, because there's sort of an overall lack of regulation, stuff like this happens. And it's not just here. I mean, it happens in the stock market also. Case in point, all the stuff with AMC. Look at all the companies that hedge funds drive into the ground and then make profits on them, driving them down, shorting them, the whole way, etc. So that appears to be what occurred here with Terra USD. And so Terra USD as a stablecoin was kind of unique. It wasn't like USDC, it wasn't like Tether, or any of those other ones, Binance USD. And the reason why is that it was what they refer to as an algorithmic stablecoin. So, it was kind of based on one of the primary things, obviously, that was based on was Bitcoin, right? So I've talked about this on the channel before, but Kwon had announced, a couple weeks, month or two back, whenever it was, that Terra was going to be buying up to $10 billion worth of Bitcoin to use in their Terra USD stablecoin. And that's what sort of set the stage for this, essentially. It's almost like, they kind of put too much into one asset, and then it became high risk. And then, as usual in crypto or really any other market, there's always somebody out there that's looking to scam, screw people over, fraudsters. There are always people like this. It doesn't matter which market you're in, there's always going to be people like this because they're following the money kind of naturally, right? So it looks like, by all accounts, that's exactly what happened. Now, let me move forward here to Kwon. So this is his post on this, and I wanted to kind of go through this to give you his take. So he says, "Dear Terra community." So obviously he understands the last 72 hours have been extremely tough on all of you. Yeah, that's an understatement. I've seen so many posts of people saying, they lost their life savings, everything that they've made. One guy I saw, he said something like he had lost 43 times his annual salary with this. Absolutely just crazy what's happened. And I'm going to show you the chart in a minute to show you how far down this has gone. But he says, first, obviously, if you don't understand Terra's peg stabilization mechanism, this is the algorithmic part of it. Here's a post here that you can follow. I'm not going to get into that. Obviously, 24 posts. That's a little much for this video. But he says, a review of the current situation. UST is currently trading at 50 cents. So that's clearly a problem when it should be at $1, right? So the price stabilization mechanism is absorbing UST supply, over 10% total supply, but the cost of absorbing so much stablecoins at the same time has stretched out the on-chain swap spread to 40%. So what he's saying there is they're basically burning the supply of UST because it's dropped so far in value, and they're trying to get the algorithmic part working again. So this is crazy. They're having to take essentially extreme measures. So, you never hear of stable coins burning supply. This is like the first I've really ever heard of this. Usually what happens is what makes a lot of news, especially in CT, is we'll hear about Tether minting more supply, and then Bitcoin coincidentally goes up along with it, right? And so that's always a topic for fudders on that one. But you really never hear about them burning UST or burning a stablecoin supply. So this is just totally way, way, way outside the norm. So he says then, before anything else, the only path forward will be to absorb the stablecoin supply that wants to exit before it can start to repeg. So start to get back to $1. So they took some actions here where he says, first, we endorse the community proposal 1164 to increase base pool from 50 million to 100 million. Decrease pool recovery block from 36 to 18. This will increase minting capacity from 293 to 1200. Again, just extreme measures, right? He says more ideas will be discussed in this community forum. Here's a link. And then with the current on-chain spread, peg pressure, and UST burn rate, the supply overhang of UST, i.e. bad debt, should continue to decrease until parity is reached and spreads begin healing. So naturally, this is at a high cost to UST and Luna holders. Massively high cost, and we're going to show that in a second. But we will continue to explore various options to bring in more exogenous capital to the ecosystem and reduce supply overhang on UST. So he says, as we begin, this is interesting, as we begin to rebuild UST, we will adjust its mechanism to be collateralized. So this is how all the other stable coins are. they're stable because they're built upon collateral, right? This is one of the problems with Tether is that they say, a large portion of the stablecoin is built on commercial paper, and we don't exactly know what that is in terms of being collateral, right? But something else, like a USDC or even I think like the Binance one is one of the best ones. It's clearly 1-to-1 in terms of they have the reserves in US dollars for the amount of stable coins. Okay. So moving towards the end of this, he says Terra ecosystem is one of the most vibrant in the industry, with hundreds of passionate teams building category defining applications within. And so, as long as they continue to build, we'll come out of this together. And he says Terra's focus has always oriented itself around a long-term time horizon, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So that's all pretty interesting. And the thing that he doesn't talk about is this idea of the market manipulation. That's kind of a whole sidebar that's been running here. Kwon actually, to my knowledge, has not commented on that whatsoever. So that's kind of interesting. Now, moving forward here, here's a statement from Terra. So this is Luna. So I wanted to highlight this one in particular, just this top one right here. So it says the prevailing peg pressure on UST from its current supply overhang is rendering severe dilution of Luna. So they're having to dilute Luna significantly and burn that UST supply to try and get all of this back, to get that peg back so it's at 1-to-1. So this is why Luna is just absolutely plummeting in the charts. I mean, just plummeting. And I'll be showing you that in a second here. All right. All right. So looking at Anchor Protocol, there was only a couple of statements here from them that I wanted to show you. And really, what it comes down to is they said their front end display wasn't working correctly. This was on May 9th, just a couple days ago. They said, note, there was not any deposit withdrawal caps during this time, and the total deposit display was not intentionally frozen. And so, that's something that comes out a lot of times whenever we get extreme volatility in the crypto market is it seems like everything just sort of grinds to a halt. And I don't know if it's just the users can't the amount of users on these platforms just shuts them down or what, but it kind of happens across the board. And it seems like that's what it is. It's just a high influx. There's only so many users can get through the pipe, and then the whole thing just sort of stops working. And so they're basically saying that's not what happened here. We didn't turn this off on purpose. And so that's really about it from Anchor Protocol, right? Now, I want to show you what this looks like on TradingView in terms of the actual charts. So here is the ANC chart for Anchor Protocol. And as you can see in this one, I mean, it is like bottoming out from where it was. So just in, what's this, March, beginning of March, Anchor Protocol had peaked at nearly, let's say $6.20. It's currently under 14 cents. So it has been absolutely just cratering. All right. Now, even worse, if you look over on the right side here, look at this on Luna, negative 99.12%. I mean, I haven't seen anything like this since, I'm going way back here, and some of the viewers on this channel may not even know about this stuff, but it makes me think of something like Enron. So Enron was this huge energy company that was cooking the books, and when it came out that they were cooking the books and it eventually collapsed, it did one of these where it just cratered down to nothing. Now, this is just insane because, again, going back, and in this one, you don't even have to go to March. This is in April. I mean, this is barely over a month ago. Luna was trading at around, it peaked at $120. So there have been people buying Luna the whole way up. Lots of big buys throughout here. And look at it now. 0.008. I mean, this is insane. I mean, this is a drop like one that I don't know if we've seen this before, or at least not in quite a while, and definitely not in a stable coin. Now, I did see a video earlier where somebody had been talking about the potential of this happening like 3 or 4 years ago. They were talking about these algorithmic stable coins and how this could happen. And, the other people in the panel were kind of just like brushing the dude off, not really listening to him. And he really had a point here. I mean, he really did. And look at this. I mean, nobody saw this coming. No one saw this coming. A 99% drop. I mean, Luna has up until now, this has been like kind of one of the golden children in crypto. I mean, this has been a really good project for quite a while, right? So that's just absolutely awful. And I'm extremely empathetic to anybody who lost money on this one. That just totally sucks. All right. Now, I also want to show you what UST is doing. So let's take a look at UST here. So, this is interesting also. So UST, it says negative 47%. So let's see what's going on here with UST. Now, look at this. So here's where it should be a stable coin, right? So it should be right around $1, right up here, just kind of, a little below, a little above, whatever. Right now, it is all the way down at 41 cents. Now, where it bottomed out was actually at 25 cents, which is just insane, especially for a stable coin. And again, nobody thought that this would be happening with Terra USD, with Luna. They seem to have, an endless reserve of money built up. They seem to, have all their ducks in a row. And then look at this. And ultimately, if it does come out that this was all market manipulation, I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. And so I'm going to be talking about that in the final thoughts of this video. Some different thoughts on that in terms of market manipulation, but just wild. It's really just pretty wild. All right. Now, moving forward here, going back to Twitter. So stuff like this has also been coming out over the last couple of days. And so this particular thread here, it says Kwon. And this was just a few days earlier. This was like a week ago, right? So he says 95% are going to die coins, but there's also entertainment in watching companies die too. How ironic is that? I mean, it's almost like some of this stuff is kind of like karma coming all the way back around. There's multiple posts that Do Kwon has unfortunately made. And, of course, in the age of Twitter, anybody can find these posts and then say, hey, what about when you said this, And he's got multiple posts about this, about, going, people going broke and, it's just kind of like, man, these, talk about doesn't age well. I always get comments like that, especially on price prediction videos where they're like, oh, this didn't age well. Well, this video here, this one is not aging well. This might take the Oscar for not aging well for 2022. This one right here. So that it just kind of rubs people the wrong way. And obviously, I mean, like I said, Luna was doing really well. Terra USD was doing really well. ANC was doing really well. All these coins were on top of their game, so no one really predicted this coming. And so, maybe it got to his head a little bit. It kind of looks that way, but regardless, I mean, I still have empathy for him. I mean, you don't want to see anybody going through this. And, there's things like this post down here, this wanted dead or alive stuff. I mean, that's taking this a little too far. But, obviously for anybody who is affected by this, it just sucks. The whole situation sucks, right? It's just terrible. So anyhow, I wanted to go back now to my Twitter page and show you a couple other things that are on here in relation to this. So, here's another post here, and this guy's been pretty interesting. I started following him over the last couple of days. This Crypto Harry, he's like Crypto Harry Potter apparently. So, he says BlackRock and Citadel the culprits. So he kind of insinuates that in this thread here. But by the time he gets to the bottom, he says, really, that's kind of who we think it is. But, we don't have anything confirmed as of yet. But that's a good thread nonetheless. So if you're on CT, check that one out. You can find out my page or his page, whatever. Here's something. So this came out, the official North Korean response to the UST crash. Okay. So, my channel, we like to, post joke memes and GIFs and things like that. So here's one that came out, which essentially is Kim Jong-un. So remember that Kwon is South Korean. So obviously Kim Jong-un is the leader of North Korea. And he says, Citadel did it. Or it was BlackRock. I love South Korea, right? And then if we go to the next one here, he says, wasn't me. He did it. So great. Thanks, Kim Jong-un, for the official statements from North Korea. And, the reason I post that is that North Korea has been known to do market manipulation and hacks. They actually are known for this in the crypto industry. This is one of the ways that this country survives, is with shady behavior just like this. So could they be a player in this equation? We still don't know that this is Citadel, and we still don't know that it's BlackRock. So maybe, I don't know. Moving up. Welcome back to work, Diamond Hands. So for everybody who's going back to work in the restaurant field, whether that be McDonald's, I saw another post. It was a guy saluting the McDonald's flag. Yep, feeling like that right now, right? This was interesting. So this one, not a joke here. So this post from Gemini. So they say, we are aware of a recent story that suggested Gemini made a 100,000 Bitcoin loan to large institutional counterparties that reportedly resulted in a sell-off in Luna. Gemini made no such loan. So that's interesting. So there's nothing directly from them. But if you're to click within the post here, let me show you what this looks like. I think it might have been Crypto Harry that was in this one again, or no, it's this guy here, John Satoshi Wick. Great name, by the way. So he says in here, he posts these different posts here, going from Gemini to Binance, Gemini to Coinbase. They're coming out of Gemini, and they're definitely moving. Now, do we know that that's the players, who did this? No, that's not been confirmed. But it does look like there were some massive moves happening, which led to this. So again, just super shady in the old, crypto industry. So I think, the gist of this post essentially is that Gemini wasn't in on it, but they may have indirectly played a role. That may be true. All right. So that's kind of where everything stands right now in terms of what's going on here with Luna and with UST and with ANC. So I'm going to wrap all this up in a couple minutes here with some final thoughts, and hopefully, we'll bring this one home in a way that makes sense. If you're enjoying today's video and want to learn more, make sure to visit our website at KIRfinance.com, your one-stop resource shop. Once you're at the site, the first thing to do is provide your email in order to be made aware of future announcements, including blog posts, products, and services. Next, check out the About Me section for a little bit about our mission and how we plan to pay it forward. We also have links to our social media, including Twitter and YouTube. Our brand new Patreon page was also just launched with the website, where users are offered various membership tiers for exclusive content and access. We even have a blog now where I plan to post daily financial articles. There's also a link to our merch shop where we've got KIR Finance product options for the whole family. Our affiliate links are posted for endorsed platforms. Just click the picture. NFTs are also available now at OpenSea.io. We have a financial education section, which includes my book on personal finance and soon-to-be course links. And lastly, if you'd simply like to leave a tip, you also have that option, and we'll mention your support in our next video. Thanks for watching, and now let's get back to the video. All right, so now let's wrap up today's video with some final thoughts. So what I really feel like led to this is sort of a combination of two things. One, ego, and number two, market manipulation. Seems like it's kind of like a perfect storm led to this scenario. So on the ego side, we had Terra and Kwon that you could argue were maybe a little overconfident, okay? And maybe he sort of missed the security implications, the risk implications of trying to go heavily into Bitcoin and announce it publicly. Now, granted, everybody would have found out anyways, but just putting it out there and being overly confident almost made this ripe for then a market manipulator, whether it's a hedge fund, a whale, whoever it may be, whether it's Citadel, BlackRock, North Korea, I don't know. We will find out more on that. As I said earlier, this is still a developing story. But what it did was it made this a ripe situation for somebody to come along and extremely manipulate it. And who always ends up getting burned in the end are the supporters, right? The holders. And in this case, Terra had a really strong community. Their community around Luna, they refer to as the lunatics. And this was a very strong community. And so, whenever you have a fall from grace like this, will we have a phoenix rising from the ashes? Maybe. It's possible. I wouldn't put it outside the realm of possibility. But I think this is definitely a black eye for Kwon, for Terra, etc. And prior to all this, they were one of the best projects in crypto. I mean, they've really, really been doing well. I can remember, buying Luna in particular when it was, under $5 and then, selling it at like 13 or 15 or whatever it was. And then it went down again, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to mess with that. And then it went all the way up and peaked at 120. And I was kicking myself that I hadn't gotten back into Luna. I sort of missed the boat when it went on the big run, right? And, now looking back, I'm like, geez, maybe that was a blessing in disguise, because that big run up, I know people were buying the whole way up. That's what's moving this thing. And to then, have your investment plummet all the way down, 99% loss, to recover on something like this, if it can recover, and that's a big if it can recover, this is going to take years. So that's just super discouraging. So I really hope that, if you're holding Luna, if you're holding any of these coins, that you didn't realize that loss, or at least minimize that realized loss. Obviously, you do have the benefit of a tax loss harvest, but well aware that there are some people that lost a significant amount of money in this. So it's just really discouraging on that front, And this whole idea of like these scammers and fraudsters and market manipulators and hedge funds, and they're all kind of the same group of people that they profit on the backs of others. And it isn't right. And it's not just limited to crypto either. I mean, this stuff happens in the stock market all the time. These hedge funds do this all the time. I remember I had read a story a couple years back about a ATM receipt that somebody found at the ATM. And it said the bank balance for this person was $400 million. And do you think that was like Michael Jordan or, Shaquille O'Neal or somebody like that? Or Tiger Woods? No, it was a hedge fund manager. So, it's kind of the whole Wolf of Wall Street thing, that they prey on people, they take your money, they manipulate the market, and there's not really anything illegal in doing so. So it's really just an odd thing that happens here. And so I think the lesson in all this is that you have to be very careful in anything that you're investing in to know that it's secure. And it brings me back to the interview that I did with Vivek of Pokedex, where that was one of the highlights of that interview that he brought up, is security. He kept saying that, that's kind of like the most important thing is security. And, these hacks, and there's always somebody trying to pull an angle or rip you off. And that's probably only going to get worse as time goes on, at least in our country in particular, in the United States where I'm at. My wife and I talk about it all the time that it feels like, the middle class is just sort of getting smushed, and you're either super wealthy or you're dead broke. And I even posted, I said, I feel like at some point we're all just going to be living in a tent on the sidewalk. And that's kind of what this whole thing sort of feels like. And so, what made this worse was that because they were overly hedged on Bitcoin, it then tore down the whole market with it when they had to then sell the Bitcoin. Now they're trying to burn the UST and dilute Luna. So it's just this
cascading cycle of, you know, borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, and the whole thing is just flattening down to nothing value. Now that we finally have a website here for my channel, KIRfinance.com, I did post an article where I talked about how exactly you could try to make a decentralized stablecoin and what that looks like. And in that article, the gist of it was that if you're going to try and go down this route, really, and you wanted to use Bitcoin, let's say, for example, you got to use it, you got to base your reserve off of the baseline of Bitcoin, not whatever the market value is. And so taking that one step further, you know, looking at what's happened with UST, I think, you know, if you're going to do a decentralized stablecoin, you need to really spread out this risk substantially. And that's another glaring Achilles heel here in this whole problem, was they had too many eggs in one basket, specifically Bitcoin. It was prone to manipulation, and that's exactly what happened. So again, I mean, you know, it's easy to play, you know, Monday morning quarterback and go back and look at it in hindsight and be like, yeah, well, that is kind of a glaring error. You know, there were some people, though, that said it ahead of time. I was not one of them. Okay, readily admit that I was not one of them. I simply looked at it and I said, wow, you know, Luna's really doing well here, and UST is really doing well here, and ANC is really doing well. And of course, when you're doing that well and you have that much money flowing in, there's going to be, you know, predators that are, you know, looking to cash in on that. And if you looked at the hodler wallets for UST, I mean, they were substantial, massive amounts of hodler wallets. A lot of people were holding here. So it's just kind of a bummer of a situation. Now, ultimately, will crypto recover? Yeah. But, you know, this also impacts the cycle. I mean, you know, we're like plummeting in value right now. None of this was supposed to happen. 2022 was, by all accounts, supposed to be a great year. Every single Bitcoin cycle until now has had a blow off top. This cycle, it's kind of looking like good luck with that. I don't know if that's going to happen at all. You know, it kind of looks like we're falling off a cliff right now. I think we could have a rebound through the end of the cycle. But in terms of those big gains that everybody thought were going to happen, I don't really think it's going to happen this cycle. I think you're probably going to be looking at next cycle for that. So overall, with everything that's happened here, I think, you know, the algorithmic stablecoins definitely need to take pause, definitely need to reevaluate exactly how they are built and can they avoid manipulation. You know, that's going to be a critical test here. It's almost like an auditing function that needs to be run against any stablecoin that's out there. Is it susceptible to manipulation? And if so, then it needs to be updated and adjusted to avoid that. You know, again, scammers, fraudsters, hedge funds, they're all kind of the same people. They exist out there, and they're going to try and take advantage just simply because there's so much money in here that they're going to try and work an angle so they can steal it, basically. So it looks like, by all accounts, that's exactly what happened here. They rigged this they rigged this whole game. They stole the money. They made money on the shorts. And then in the meantime, you know, especially anybody who was trying to unload or sell, you know, got wrecked. I know, you know, probably some of the exchanges completely shut everything down because of the high amount of volume. Then people get wrecked even more. And it's just kind of a bummer all the way around. So that's exactly what happened, or what appears to have happened. You know, maybe I'll do an update on this either in another video or on Twitter once we find out more in terms of that manipulation, if we can figure out who exactly that was, to be determined. All right? So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to hit the like button. Don't forget that I am also on Twitter at KIR Finance, where you can find me tweeting and retweeting on a regular basis. Don't forget to check out our new website, KIRfinance.com. And lastly, for a friendly reminder, this is Jesse with Keeping It Real Finance, the channel that always has your back, tells it like it is, and I will see you on the next one. Later.